What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Jackal Den podcast. I am your president and host, Daryl Keith Hendon, aka the Fairweather Rugby fan. Join with me, as always, the man that strikes fear into the heart of poor officials on the rugby pitches all across the globe, Rick Collins. Welcome, man. What a weekend,
I'm glad
bro.
to be back.
What a weekend, man.
It's great to at least get them on the field, have them play. It's a disappointing result, but I'm just happy that we've got professional rugby again. Like, it's still going. We're 6 years in. This is still going. Like, this isn't pro rugby that disintegrates after a couple of years. So it was great to go out there, and I had a blast last night. It was a lot of fun.
The big news coming out of San Diego, topping 10,000 fans for their home opener.
Yeah, I heard 11,400, which is insane number.
I mean, a record in Major League Rugby. So
it's a record for any match, and that's the opening preseason match. Now, it's a new stadium, and they marketed the heck out of it. But getting that number and then compare that to championship games, which you always expect to have at least 3 times the number, and it beat all the championship games. That's insane.
That just shows you the league is around year 6, and it's getting stronger and stronger every year. And despite the hiccups in the offseason with the Gilchrist-owned teams, it looks like it's here.
And the announcement that we're getting a new team in Miami. I mean, that's exciting. And then having the team in Chicago, losing LA and Austin obviously hurts, and I'd love to go back to those markets again in the future, but Miami and Chicago are not bad markets to be in.
No slouch. And I think it'll provide plenty of LeBron meme material in the off season whenever it's guys out. I've decided to take my services to South Florida. We'll be able to use that meme for any guys that jump
ship. Let's get started. Part 1 of our little podcast here is our club news, Jakl news, and the pre-match tailgate. Keith.
The Boerewors was cooked. You guys ate it up quick, man. I even had to get on the Facebook page and just write a big thank you to everybody for that. That was bigger than I thought it would be. Everybody, you had the kids in the parking lot playing rugby.
So I was going to say the kids playing parking lot rugby was awesome.
We had an Arlington cop sitting 20 feet from us, and there was no need.
Nothing.
Everybody picked up after themselves. Everybody acted, we had a good time. It was a good time to just chit chat with each other, get amped up before we go into the stadium for the match. And I thought, man, going forward, we gotta try and see if we can make this happen, because this was definitely a positive thing, not just for the Jackal Den, but for the Dallas Jackals at large. There were people that came out last night that had never come to games just because they knew there was tailgating.
In fact, one of the groups that initiated the tailgate in the spot that we ended up, I talked to them, and they had never been to a rugby match before, and they were literally looking just for an excuse to tailgate, and they bought tickets to the game. So, I mean, you already have won over fans just by having a tailgate. I don't see why they wouldn't allow us to tailgate in the future, and that's the next thing. We are going to touch base with the club and find out about the next home match. And if we are going to get a tailgate, I would be surprised if we don't. But you never know. This is one of those things where you're dealing with the Texas Rangers, who own the parking. You're dealing with the city of Arlington, who manages the security. And then you're dealing with the Jackals. And so all of that mixed in, it makes it difficult. I understand.
Well, down in the mix with the South Africans that were just down the way from us, I'm happy to tell you there was somebody from the Rangers office down there. And he loved it.
Excellent.
He loved it. They were feeding him steaks and Boerewors. He was loving it. And that was something that, it was just a great experience all around. If you weren't there, if we do this again, folks, you got to come out, man. It's so fun. Just fill your belly up with some food. Have a few drinks. I was drinking non-alcoholic Guinness. It tastes like cold coffee, folks. That's all it tastes like.
Could be worse things to drink, to be fair.
Yeah, and it was just a good time. My girlfriend, who's not really the most social butterfly, everybody was it just felt like a community, a family environment out there.
Absolutely. We even invited the Sabercats fans to join us. They shared their whiskey and scotch with us and had drinks with us. So it was a win, big time win.
Yeah.
If the Jackals don't see that, I just don't even know where to go.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So that brings us to, what do we do when we don't have a home match? Because, okay, we're all going to be watching on the Rugby Network, which is what it's broadcast on this weekend. And it's a 3:00 start Central Standard Time. Okay, so make sure you don't, schedule your watching time for 7 p.m. It's a 3:00 Central Time. It's a away match in Utah. If you're going to Utah, make sure to wear all your Jackal Den gear, all your Jackals gear. Get it up for the cameras. Be loud. We'll be excited to see you on TV. But if you're not able to go to Utah, we're going to be doing it at the Londoner again this year. Now, I know there's a lot of people across the Metroplex who that's a long drive for them, and I understand that. We're working with the Jackals on solidifying a permanent relationship with multiple locations. So hopefully that comes to fruition. But for this weekend, we will be at the Londoner Addison. We will be there from 2:30 to 5:30 to make sure we're there before the match starts and give us a little time after the match ends. So, I mean, this is our first, watch party. We're planning on potentially live streaming it on the Facebook app. So if you can't make it for whatever reason, you might be able to listen to some of our commentary during the game. So exciting. I mean, it's the first away match of the year. So hopefully the Londoner does it just like they did last year, which is perfect for everybody. It's always a great atmosphere there.
Yeah, plenty of cold beer, ice waters, whatever. It's just a good place to kind of hang out. If you don't want to sit on a hard chair, there's couches you can sit on.
Yes.
And it's as good as having it, I'd say, if I had a nice sized living room. It's just a good little atmosphere.
With a fireplace.
A fireplace, darts, pool, everything. They got it there. So come on out, folks. It's always a good time.
And the people of the London are phenomenal. They always treat us right.
Great people.
So let's get into the Jackal signings, Daryl.
Yeah. Man.
Dare I say that we've added a little bit of firepower in the last week and a half?
I don't think you dare. You just go ahead and say it.
Okay, I'd say we added firepower in the last week and a half.
We'll talk about it a bit more in the game, but Big Mike, what a signing that man was.
Immediate impact.
I don't know what they put in the water down there in Fiji. I mean, I've been there. I don't know what it is, but that man is a Hulk of a man. And
they call him the Fijian Godzilla. So
he is massive, but always with a smile on his face too.
Yep. But his ball carrying, the set piece with him, it did seem better. And that's just from outside looking in. It's really hard to tell the mechanics from the bleachers, but just in the open in his ball carrying, he's forcing 2 or 3 guys to tackle him. And that was immediate impact in terms of creating space. So, I mean, just from that aspect alone, absolutely worth signing. And he's on a 3-year deal. So he's this year and the next 2 years. And I believe that would put him at USA eligible. Now he's an older guy, so 31, not sure he would ever, move over to the Eagles. I mean, he might be way too old at that point, but it's good to have him back around. He actually has been in Dallas for a long time, in Texas for a long time. He's played for, I think, every D1 club in Dallas and played at least for the Austin Blacks in Austin. So he's been in Texas for a long time. He's basically a Texan at this point.
I mean, he's everything's bigger in Texas, including that. He is a Hulk of a man.
So the next guy I wanted to make sure we mention, because we had him last year and we noticed an immediate impact near the end of the year when they gave him playing time, and a young American player, Luis Satama. We did not see him in any of the video or photos in preseason. And then when they released the full roster, he was on there. And I think everybody got excited when they saw his name on there.
I call him my Uso. It's my Samoan brother. He, I mean, he had a highlight try against LA last year. It was he stole offload, ran it in, scored a try, and he's just one of those guys that's just kind of an exciting player to see on the pitch.
And brings the wood on defense.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get. He's a big body. He can tackle, but he can also run really fast. And he's got a big square body. So, I mean, if you're going to try and stop him, you're going to have to throw everything you got at the guy. He's just a big, solid dude. And very, very happy to have him back. His skills at center are immeasurable. He is such a solid player.
Yeah, and you can slide him out to wing if you absolutely have to for whatever reason. But based on our current roster, man, it'd be nice to have another big body in the centers. Let's be honest.
Definitely. And then we've got two more Argentinian players. Kind of hard to get really any background. I believe that Nicholas Rival Pitt, I believe he's playing for the French Academy, Castres Academy in France. I think he's on their academy side. And then we have a hooker coming in, another hooker. We've got Thomas Bickerman coming in, another Argentinian.
And so he
21 years old, young guy.
I think he's half Argentinian, half American. I think from my very brief conversation with him, he is Argentina eligible. So he would have to be here for a while. He's not been living in the States, at least for a while now. So he more than likely he's joining because of the Argentinian contingent and hoping that opens doors for him to get to the national team. But who knows? Keep him around in Dallas long enough. Find him a woman if he doesn't already have one. Get him settled in here, right? I mean, that's what we want to try and do with some of these guys. But he's 21. He'll be 20. He's not turned 21 yet. So very young, probably development type player. Looks good. I mean, he's got the Argentinian skill set. So, he's going to be able to play in the open. Just, don't know, at this level what his scrum and line out skills will, transition to.
Well, I guess we'll see here pretty soon. Hopefully we'll get a chance to see him out on the pitch.
He's working on his visa, so he's not up here yet. He will be up here hopefully soon.
Oh, definitely. Those visa issues, they seem to the start of this team had a visa issue, no coach. So
and hey, let's be fair, like we can't get enough Argentinian front rowers. Just keep signing. If they'll come up here for cheap, keep signing them because run through so many front rowers.
Juan Pablo was the man
during the season.
And
that gets us to play on the field because it was disappointing, the results, but I think a lot more people left the stadium with a smile on their face than many of the matches last year. And most of those people are people who really understand the sport and what they're looking at, what they're seeing in comparison to what we saw last year. If you want to talk about that, Keith.
Well, I mean, once again, I run into guys that were on this squad last year. Sam Phillips, the local lock, personal trainer, doing really, really well for himself. Even he was like, wow, this is completely different than what we had last year. And I mean, even on the notes, man, I'm not the biggest statistics guy, but I went back and made notes. And I mean, our scrum was 50-50. We were not, when we had scrums, we won them. When they had scrums, they won them. They stole a few from us. We stole, I think, one from them. We weren't getting bowled over. The fact of the matter is that, yes, they're our in-state rival, but Houston they're a serious contender. Yeah. If you're not talking about them in the championship, you probably don't know that team is a serious contender right there. They are. But in the same respects, if you look at the history of that team, they were in the basement for the first 4 years they were in this league. They had won a total of 10 games in 4 years. They won 9 last year.
Yeah.
It shows you what a coach, an overhaul can do to your program. We're in the middle of that right now. We saw the beginning of that. We saw the seeds of that planted last night. We were both 16-16 on the lineouts. The penalty count was very, very lopsided, obviously, and we can get to that kind of later in the game. But we started out on our back foot. We spent the first 25 minutes in our own end, and all they got out of that was 5 points. Five
Dude,
points.
the first 20 minutes of the match were I feel like we struggled a lot, and yet the score was only 5-0 at 20 minutes. And so that it told me that we're capable of cleaning up errors, and that had we positioned ourselves better in the back three, we might not have given up those 5.
It was just, we had one, like, I mean, we had a scrum. Our very first scrum of the game was awarded to Houston 5 meters out.
Yeah.
We won that scrum, and Alejandro Torres kicked it out. I was not expecting that.
No.
And last year, that would have been an automatic try for Houston. They would have rolled it right in. I tip my hat to the coaching staff. You can see that they're definitely, even before the game, I mean, come on, man. You've got Mario Ledesma out on the pitch working on scrums with these boys. And this is, for those of you not familiar with rugby, Mario Ledesma was who Michael Chica in 2015 called saying, hey, man, I'm about to go to the World Cup and I'm having scrum issues. And they end up making it to the final, and nobody picked him to make it to the final.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely
phenomenal
scrum coach.
And we've got one of the best in the biz. And
he's also the USA set piece coach right now. Now, that may change with Scott Lawrence coming into place, but I mean, to have him here, to have him, being available to potentially even coach the national team, that's huge. So I'm so excited to see how the scrum continues to progress, because I think it can be one of the best scrums in the league when you look at what just happened between us and Houston. Oh, we got a freeze here. One.
This meeting is being recorded.
Got to definitely start with the lineouts. Dewey Kutsia at first coming in, absolutely dominant. We're competing. I've also got to bring up Sam Gola, Burr, getting the balls, getting up there, being competitive. And even at Houston lineouts, getting up there and getting competitive. And then later when Robinson comes in the game, absolute great success as well.
Yeah, I couldn't believe I saw him on the list, and I thought, okay, this is going to be a trial by fire for the young man. But dang, he was excellent in the lineout.
I mean, yeah, I remember him wearing shoulder pads last year at the Houston game, and it was just kind of like,
that's what you put on when you're 35 and you're just barely getting by. Oh, but he was great, and I thought one of the keys was contesting the lineouts, and I think the ones that we decided not to contest, I was disappointed. I felt like we really should have contested, because I don't think the maul is quite there for us yet. The defense
definitely compared to Houston, definitely not. But that great lineout led to our second try of the game. We went close. We offloaded it we line out to Big Mike. He does a quick little toss to Adrian Boyson, and he crosses. Absolutely beautiful. Adrian was a workhorse the entire game. Played the whole 80 minutes.
And, I mean, he's kind of what you expect to have out of an 8, though. It's just he's a bull and just working and working and working. And every single time he ran with the ball, he was bowling over guys and creating space. So, I mean, it really the best match I've seen from him so far. I was really excited to see how well.
Definitely agreed, 100%. He was definitely in the zone last night. Obviously, 33-12, the final score, not what anybody expected. But like I said, I walked out knowing that, okay, the problems we had last year, they're fixed. They're getting fixed. I think we kind of wondered after the scrimmage. My wonder of that is gone. Now we just need to get the offense ready to go. But I think when you're playing a team like Houston that just has such a high power offense, you're going to have to play a lot of defense.
Yeah. And the defense, I think for the most part, was really good. Compared to the preseason match, the defense I thought was much more aggressive and much more unified. Everybody coming up together, coming up hard, making double tackles, getting on guys early before they could get the ball away. We didn't let them get outside like we did. We let NOLA get outside against us.
We didn't get murdered at the breakdown.
Yeah. Oh, that too.
At least by Houston, but we definitely got murdered by the officiating.
Woo! Okay, so before we get into that, Keith, don't jump too early. Let's give our 3 stars of the game. Your 3 stars, sir.
I'm going to do rookie Sam Gola. Absolutely first round. Obviously, the expectations are high, but he has stepped in and looks like he's a veteran. He has no issues.
At a position that he was not playing in.
Was not playing. He played excellent at lock. Second star I'm going to go with is Juan Pablo Zeiss. I think he was really the key ingredient at our scrum. You kind of saw a little bit older than the rest of the boys on the front line there, but definitely leading by example. And my final star of the game, I'm going to have to give it to Adrian Boyson, man. What a proper effort. 80 minutes, scores a try, in the mix, under the ball after restarts, and just a workhorse, man. And like leading by example.
Yeah. And so my 3 stars, I love those, but I'm going to go with 2 different players and then one the same, which is JP Zeiss. I mean, he goes by Juan Pablo Zeiss, but Zeiss, just call him Zeiss. And he was freaking money. It's amazing the difference when you got somebody in that front row who's done it a million times, knows all the little tricks, and who is just extremely skilled up there. And you could tell the difference from the NOLA match, the preseason match, to this one. He's a difference maker up front. We really, after last year, like I'm watching it a lot more closely this year than I did last year. So I know it's gotten so much better. My second one, we talked about him, was Dewey Kotze. He was phenomenal. You talked about the lineouts, and part of that was we were getting jumpers higher than theirs every single time. Defensively, offensively, sometimes the defense wasn't in the right spot, but that was fine. We were at least competing. But offensively, he was getting the ball bang on every single time. Every single throw was perfect. I thought our lineout was 100 million times better. And it was so nice to have such clean ball from lineouts. It was like night and day from last year. And then my third was Thomas Milanos, who, I wasn't sure really what we were getting out of him. I knew he could play all the backs positions and really thought he would be a guy coming off the bench for us. And he stepped in at 13. He actually started off the bench in the preseason match, and then he started at 13. And I would say between him and JP Aguirre, the defense was so much better. And that midfield defense was night and day from what we saw against NOLA. And also I thought, just based on their size, that they might struggle, and why we wouldn't start a guy, more of a Satama, somebody a little bit bigger, because of that issue. But man, they killed it. And I think they knew exactly what they were doing, how they were going to do it. And I think they played it right to the coaches' requirements on defensive alignment and everything. And then offensively, I thought he was good. I think one of the things that we struggled with was we didn't have the fantastic moments that maybe we had against NOLA, and then some last year, especially against Houston. So that was a little bit disappointing that the offense didn't quite click, I think, is how we would have liked to see them. But defensively, that's one of the biggest things from last year, which we just got murdered on defense. And the defense was so much better despite giving up 33. I think this is a Houston team that's going to put a lot of points on the board against a lot of good teams this year.
Definitely. So start off with the positives, start off with the good things. And of course, we got to obviously dig into the things that, kind of grinded my gears. I think grinded a lot
grinding my gears. I like that for this segment.
Yeah,
that's good.
It was, I'm just going to have to start off. He is a Canadian. You guys know my background, but Mo Chowdhury, this was really bad officiating. Lots of penalties got missed. Now, I'm not saying I know I'm a Springbok guy, and any of you guys that don't understand that, we're pretty notorious for complaining about referees, but I'm not saying that changed the result of the game, but there were a lot of missed calls, coming in from the side, head contact, everything. There was a point at which I was watching the game, and you had Harry Labuschagne
watching the replay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and he was 2 meters out of bounds, and they didn't even call anything because he didn't know whether to look at the yellow line or the white line. And it was just kind of like, come on, man. Like, you're a referee in a professional league. That's my big one. You were all over him the whole night. Like I said, that's why I started this out. The man that, just gets under the skin.
I know both of the touch judges looked at me while I was talking to them. So, yeah, I mean, and I know most of these referees, I've either played against them in the past or they've refereed my matches. And so I don't really have an issue talking to them. I'm not going to cuss at them and I'm not going to talk poorly about them, but I'm going to say, hey, you're missing this. And there was so many times, and I think both teams probably were guilty of it, but I'm seeing Houston doing it, and it was just hands on the ground in the ruck. And so they're collecting the ball after they've gone over and put their hands on the ground or their body weight not being supported. And so I was really disappointed that I thought it wasn't even inconsistent. It was consistently bad in that area specifically. Yeah. But I agree. I think there was just a lot of fouls not called at all. I didn't notice him calling things that weren't fouls. It was really just missing things. And I know that they're trying to keep the matches more fluid and keeping them going and not having all these penalties. But the players are just going to get worse and worse in these areas, especially at the ruck, at the breakdown. It's so important to make sure that both teams are competing fairly because there's a lot of injuries that can happen at that part of the game.
And this is a sport, ladies and gentlemen, where at the beginning of the game, the referees will talk to the captains and basically say, hey, look, this is what I expect to see. If you don't do it, there's going to be penalties. And I just didn't see that level of communication from him. I mean, you can go back and watch the replay, and he does. CC Mahoney got called out at one point, basically tells Houston, like, hey, he does this one more time, there's going to be a card involved. But it was just kind of like he didn't establish the kind of clean playing that he wanted, and we just never saw it. We saw a lot of dirty play at the breakdown. And maybe it just wasn't his day. He just wasn't.
Yeah, and that's fair. And we're not going to call him a bad ref. We're just going to say he had a very bad reffing day, and it was unfortunate.
He's a human, just like the rest of us. He's human,
and that's the thing. And the touch judges had to. And look, it's hard to like say anything bad about touch judges because really their job is fairly simple. They're not trying to make it too complex, and they do help out the referee with certain things that they see. But we have TMO now. So TMO, definitely provides some of that coverage. But I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that this is the first time we've seen lines for football on this field, and they didn't line up with the rugby line. So the 50 wasn't at our 50. So the 50 was like 10 meters off. That made it really confusing about where they were on the field. Because you look and you go, the 20, okay, they were close to it. And the 20 on each side of the field is a completely different spot than
it wasn't off. It was offset to one side.
And so and so there was I could totally understand when you've been basically refereeing matches entirely on rugby fields or soccer fields that are rugby fields, which don't have 5 yard lines every, and then have those markers of the numbers going up and down the field, that it would be confusing, especially with the width of the field. So I could see that being a problem, but you've got to train for that. You come out to the field and practice, right? The referee's got to practice just like the players to get used to where the lines are and make sure which lines we're using, which we're not, and make sure we're on the same page. So, I give them a little leeway there, but I also think, it definitely could have been better. But I mean, we're after the fact now. Hopefully they heard what we were, saying. At least subconsciously it's getting in. And we don't want to be rude to them, but we want a clean game. And that's fair, I think, for the fans.
Well, I think that was kind of it for the complaint department as far as the game went. Don't want to go too deep. I will mention,
and we love them all. We love all these referees because they're putting in the duty that we need to have this game continue in this country.
Definitely.
So all props to that. They've got a hard job and they're doing it.
Yeah. Got to commend the Choctaw staff, the new app where you can have everything delivered to your seat if you don't want to go stand in lines.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's an app. We had everything delivered to us, bro. Yeah,
that's a new
one. So the concession lines got a little
all
long.
The people out there watching this, if you're at the game, download the Choctaw app.
Yeah, it's
on Apple and Google
it,
Store,
and they will bring everything to
Brilliant.
your seat.
That's pretty much.
That was cool. That was definitely a cool thing.
That's not a complaint. Well, what's your complaint then?
No, the concession lines were long. That was the complaint right there. But overall, great experience for an opening night. I can't wait 2 weeks for us to be home. But next weekend, we'll obviously be on the road. We'll be at the Londoner broadcasting there. But I just wanted to say one last thing. Thank you guys for subscribing, following this. This Jakl Den podcast that we're doing. It's by the fans, but it's really for the fans. That's what this is all about at the end of the day. So we do appreciate all your support, guys.